April, as this is our only SCG Tour stop here this month before we heat things up again in May. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But for now, we turn our attention to game number one between our two finalists here in Allen and Lawrence. And we underway here. Zach Allen's going to kick things off, of course, with a Ravnica land tap. That is a Watery Grave. We go to Sam Lawrence. It is a Forest and the very powerful Ancient Stirrings. Top 5 cards here for Lawrence. He will take a look at, and he will make a selection here in just a moment. Hive Mind among the cards he is looking at. A card that has somehow, someway made its way back into the main deck of Amulet Titan.
Well, it's a piece that allows you to combo out at 6 mana, much like Primeval Titan, but in a way that obviously avoids any creature removal as a form of interaction.
We go back over to Zach Allen. He's just going to play a fetch land, pass the turn back over to Sam Lawrence. Lawrence will draw a card. It's not a fast start here for Lawrence, but he looks like he has another 1-mana spell to play. It's another copy of Ancient Stirrings. That is going to resolve. So Lawrence will take a look at the top 5 cards once again. Coalition Relic, Gemstone Mine, Azusa Lost But Seeking, Simic Growth Chamber, Boros Garrison are the 5 cards that the Amulet Titan player is looking at. Looks like he will select Simic Growth Chamber.
Another key card in the matchup here, Allen has several copies of Field of Ruin. Very good against the 2-mana lands, of course. Also very good against the Cabinet of Souls, which Lawrence may want to access to try to get through the Primeval Titan through counterspells.
There will be a copy of Serum Visions now here for Sam Lawrence that will resolve using the Gemstone Mine to do so. So that powerful land, originally from Weatherlight, going to slide down to 2 mining counters. Split the difference on the scry, 1 on top, 1 on bottom when we head back over to Zach Allen. But first, Allen's going to sacrifice a fetch land, fall down to 19 it appears, and get himself a land out of his deck. It's been an impressive performance for Zach Allen as he searches up a Hallowed Fountain that enters the battlefield tapped. Member of Team RIW starting to make a name for himself here in Magic. This might be his best tournament finish to date in his Magic career. Certainly one of the more impressive ones, as Esper controls a deck that many, again, had left for dead in Modern, and it appears to be doing just fine. Looks like he found a build that's working pretty well for him.
A major premium here on removal that exiles between Path to Exile and Detention Sphere. His match against Izzet Phoenix did not appear that competitive. Was never really under any sort of threat of losing in the post-board games.
A land tapped there for Zach Allen. We head back over to Sam Lawrence, who again hasn't really shown any fireworks just yet. We haven't seen a Sakura Tribe Scout or an Amulet of Vigor. Though Sakura Tribe Scout is hanging out in Lawrence's hand. That said, I can't expect that card's going to live very long against a deck that has Path to Exile and Fatal Push.
Yep. Might be net positive for Allen, from Allen's perspective, for Lawrence to draw that card because it allows him to do something with the Fatal Pushes that are otherwise dead.
It does make you wonder, though, how well does Sam Lawrence know this deck? We know players like Edgar and Matthew Dilks and Daryl Ayers. They know the deck extremely, extremely well. Not saying Sam Lawrence doesn't. He's obviously in the finals of this tournament and just beat Matthew Dilks in the mirror. But does he know how to attack this kind of matchup, as there is a Hallowed Fountain untapped? And Lawrence will pass the turn. Well, excuse me, Allen will pass the turn back to Lawrence. Zach Allen representing Cryptic Command, among many other things at this stage of the game.
And that's going to be the challenge here for Lawrence. If the game drags a little bit, if he doesn't just blow Allen out of the gates, how does he work around just hard counterspells like Negate, Logic Knot, and Cryptic Command? Certainly, if you have only a handful of live cards and you're throwing them into the maw of Cryptics and Negates, that's not a winning strategy.
Teleria West is going to be transmuted now for Sam Lawrence, so he'll search for something that costs 0, a land or a spell, of course. Could find a Summoner's Pact, Pact Negation, something of that style, as he does dig around through the deck a little bit here. He's gone by a couple of packs. Looks like he might be opting for a copy of Cavern of Souls. I think a very key card in this matchup, as long as you don't expose it to Field of Ruin, as you did mention.
Yeah, Lawrence, if he's able to keep Cavern of Souls in play for the whole game, it's obviously extremely valuable. Even one shot with it to push through Primeval Titan can be enough to win the game.
There's a Simic Growth Chamber. That's going to pick up a Gemstone Mine to reset the mining counters on that powerful 5-color land, and we will head back over to Zach Allen, who will draw a card. You see he's got a copy of Path to Exile in hand, among many other things, but he is a reactive deck by nature, as there's a Field of Ruin, and he hasn't had anything to really react to. Sakura Tribe Scout is still alive. We might see that get activated, and we will. Gemstone Mine's going to come down, 3 mining counters on that. Untap and draw. And Lawrence will draw. He's got a forest in his hand now.
So this is the flashpoint where Lawrence could resolve one of his 6s. Already 4 men on the battlefield. The Tribe Scout, we can call that +1, make your land drop. Opportunity to resolve Primeval Titan or perhaps Hive Mind.
That'll be a Cavernous Souls. That was probably naming Giants. And now Primeval Titan will be uncounterable. And now there is the Primeval Titan. So Trigger, going to search up 2 lands. We've seen this so many times here this weekend in the hands of Edgar and Matthew. And Dominic Harvey as well. Now we see it from Sam Lawrence once again. It'll be a Boros Garrison and a Teleria West. There will be a trigger from the Garrison, which means Sam Lawrence needs to pick up a land. Which one he picks up is, well, anybody's guess at this stage, but he's going to go with Teleria West. Looks like he also has a copy of Amulet of Vigor in hand.
The Teleria West so important here for the sequencing of picking those up to allow you to tutor for packs. And the pack allowing you to either get Primeval Titan or set up a kill with Hive Mind.
One thing I think will be interesting in this matchup, too, is how well does Zachary Allen know this matchup. He's very clearly demonstrated mastery of his deck, making it to the finals of this tournament, and watching him play against Is It Phoenix last round, he obviously has a plan of attack against the most popular deck in the format. Amulet Titan might be one of the more popular decks here on the SCG Tour, but not one of the most popular decks in Modern in general, given the skill cap on the deck. So how well does he know the matchup as he continues to just play lands and pass the turn and react to Sam Lawrence?
Keep in mind that at root, at least in game 1, Lawrence has, realistically, 6 cards that can win the game. 4 copies of Primeval Titan and 2 copies of Hive Mind. If Allen is able to fend off those 6 cards, Lawrence has no recourse. So the Primeval Titans, yeah, it's great to get the extra lands, whatever. If Allen can prevent Lawrence from ever getting to a combat step with Primeval Titan, Lawrence is leaning really heavily on Hive Mind and resolving that spell with no way to push it through besides 1 copy of Pact Negation against a deck with multiple copies of Logic Knot and Negate. It's going to be really hard.
There's an Amulet of Vigor.
And I think in game 1, Allen is unlikely to try to fight over mana. I think he's going to say, you've got 6 cards that could beat me. I'm going to fight a fight over those 6 cards, and everything else, have at it.
There's a copy of Azuva. Maybe. Sam Lawrence not sure if he wants to play that land or not. I think that is a very, very good point that there really are only 6 cards that matter in Sam Lawrence's deck in game number 1. Those 4 Primeval Titans and those 2 copies of Hive Mind. I know there's a lot that's going on in between the margins, but realistically, those are the only cards that matter. As here's a copy of Summoner's Pact. Primeval Titan will be what Sam Lawrence finds.
I mean, if you have a mixture of 4 total Snapcasters and Paths blended together to be able to play all 4 paths, and 3 counter spells, 2 for the Hive Minds plus 1 to fight the Pact Negation, that, I don't know if Lawrence has anything to do game 1. That just might be it.
Mm-hmm. And that is a real concern, as now Primeval Titan's going to resolve again. It's being cast through the Cavernous Souls, that is, naming Giant, of course, so Zach Allen can't counter that one. But if he does have a Path Exile or a Snapcaster Mage for the Path Exile in the graveyard, doesn't really matter all that much.
And I assume that Allen was going to just fire off the Field of Ruin there on the Counter of Souls much earlier on in the game, but I think Allen's perspective is just go ahead. If I can kill it, I don't really need to counter it. The counter spells are good against the Hive Mind, so it's not like I'd have to cash it in on the Primeval Titan. There's other cards I can use it on. And, I suspect Allen is just putting Lawrence to that test, which I don't think he can pass if Allen's got a good hand of, you've got 6 live cards, and let's see if you can push one of them through.
A couple copies of Simic Growth Chamber here from Sam Lawrence is what he's going to find with this Primeval Titan, his 2nd of the game. There'll be 2 triggers to pick up 2 lands, and there will also be triggers to untap those lands with the Amulet of Vigor that's on the battlefield. Teleria West is going to come back. That one's not much of a surprise. At least I'm pretty sure it's going to come back, and then we'll see what the other land that's going to come back is.
You have that experience. I think of Living End a lot as a deck where there's a lot going on. They take a lot of game actions. They don't actually have that many ways to beat you. If you can fight the fight over there, 2 or 3 copies of Living End, often that's good enough. And the same thing's going on here. Lawrence is accruing a lot of resources. He's moving material around zones. He's picking up his deck and tutoring a whole lot, but I don't know if there's, at the end, just enough live cards to make any of this matter.
There's a Transmuted Talaria West from Sam Lawrence. It is interesting when you're watching a game in which the Amulet Titan player essentially just has their deck in their hand most of the game.
Yep.
There's the one packed navigation that Zach Allen is aware of. You're aware of it too because we've mentioned it, but also because the deck lists are available on Cordware live at home, so you can see these exact deck lists here from Zach Allen and Sam Lawrence right now as you watch the finals unfold here from Cleveland.
That's the 7th live card in Lawrence's deck, as it's a way to make one of the 6 relevant cards actually get through.
There is the Sunholm, Fortress of the Legion, that being the Boros Legion, of course. A card from original Ravnica way back when.
Yeah.
Now Zach Allen taking a little bit of a look at his hand, kind of sorting out the things that Sam Lawrence can do. Now don't forget, if Sam Lawrence puts that die on top of the deck, he does have to pay for Summoner's Pact next turn. He has plenty of mana to do so, but you wouldn't want to make the mistake of forgetting. Snapcaster Mage. Path to Exile. 2 Titans down.
I wonder if Lawrence is trying to fight the good fight over Hive Mind instead of Primeval Titan.
I think that's what the game's about, trying to win with Hive Mind plus Summoner's Pact. As here comes the Snapcaster Mage in for 2.
And I like that logic because Allen has a wider range of tools to fight over Primeval Titan. All of his creature removal works. They're effectively additional counterspells. Only the counterspells interact with Hive Mind. And so I like the notion here of trying to save your resources to fight. Catch your Primeval Titans, maybe they're good. Probably not, but you can at least try. But if you want to pick a big fight, I like Lawrence wanting to initiate it over Hive Mind rather than Primeval Titan.
Yeah, I like that too. There's another Amulet of Vigor that's going to resolve. This is not a card that Jack Allen really cares about.
It's just more mana, and we're past the point where mana is a consideration.
That's going to be a Vesuva. Vesuva is going to copy something. Looks like it's going to copy a Simic Growth Chamber. Going to float a bunch of mana because of these amulet activations. And now return the Vesuva. Do you dare go for the Hive Mind at this point?
How is it going to get any better? So the only way that it can get better is if you can position yourself such that Logic Knot is not a consideration, which maybe you can. Lawrence is at a point here where he has a lot of mana. But you only have the one Pact of Negation in the deck. There's no opportunity to sculpt your hand to be any better than this. And every draw step you give Allen is a draw step to find a counterspell. And Lawrence can't beat the counterspells. So, again, I think this is a low probability bet, but it's not going to get better from here.
So it's time to make a move and cast a Hive Mind here, folks. Sam Lawrence has 2 of these in his main deck, and this is one of them. And he is going to go for broke. You see he's got the Pact of Negation to give himself some protection, and then also a Summoner's Pact to try to win. As with Hive Mind, the opponent gets a copy of the spells that you play. Here is Summoner's Pact. So that means Zach Allen will have a copy of Summoner's Pact. And now Zach Allen, he knows his Magic a little bit, I think, here. So both players will get a copy of Summoner's Pact, and now Zach Allen's going to do what you have to do against this, which is play a Logic Knot for 0. He's going to target his own Summoner's Pact. That's also going to give Sam Lawrence a Summoner's Pact. It's also going to give him a Logic Knot.
So I think this is a really heads-up play here from Allen. Because of the Sakura Tribe Scout and the multiple copies of Amulet of Vigor, picking a fight over the Hive Mind itself might be a really bad bet. Because if Lawrence has a 2-mana land to deploy out of his hand, he might be able to pay well through whatever Allen can generate off the Logic Knot. this is much safer. And again, we're hitting the spot where it's not, Alan is, or Lawrence rather, is running out of live cards. The Hive Mind only has the 1 Path of Negation and the 4 Summoners packs as things to pair with it. And many of those Summoners packs have already been used. So this is a very conservative play from Alan, but I think a sharp one.
And so if you know how this kind of thing works with Hive Mind, because it's such an obscure card and such an obscure interaction, the Logic Knot for 0 is targeting his own Summoners pack that was given to him by Sam Lawrence. And he'll say, I can't pay, which means it'll get countered.
Lawrence gets a copy of Logic Knot for 0 as well, but that doesn't do anything.
That doesn't do anything.
And Lawrence can't fight back with Pact of Negation because the act of casting Pact of Negation gives Alan a Pact of Negation to fight over it, and Alan can pay for Pact of Negation.
And also, Alan can use the Pact of Negation that's given to him and say, okay, I will counter the Summoner's Pact that you gave to me.
Right. So it's covered in a bunch of different directions.
Yep. So Pact of Negation being the coverage to resolve Hive Mind, well, that was true. But Pact of Negation in this situation is really no good. So now that Hive Mind's on the battlefield, it's about, I need to find another Summoner's Pact and try to get that to resolve. Secure Tribe Scout might go active here. We will see. Here's a copy of Vesuva. Now, he's already played a land for the turn, so he's got to do it with the Secure Tribe Scout because he already played a land. That was Vesuva that he played earlier on the Simic Growth Chamber. That happened earlier in this turn. So he can use it. He can use the Secure Tribe Scout to place a land onto the battlefield, and it looks like it's going to be a copy of Vesuva. But you can see the way that Zach Allen played this turn. This is no accident that he's in the finals.
Yep. And also, another nice thing about Allen taking this line is that now you don't have to fight a fight over the second copy of Hive Mind. There's a finite number of cards.
One thing that is taking place right now, which is why we are in a bit of a delay here, is that this may be Sam's 3rd game rule violation on playing an additional land in a turn. This is something that, unfortunately, does happen in competitive play, and especially with a deck like Amulet Titan, where lands are moving all over zones, up and down and all around, especially when you have a Azusa involved. So they are going to check on that, and if that is a 3rd game rule violation, I believe that may be a game loss, but I'm not convinced Sam is winning this game anyway.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for Amulet players in the turns they get like this. Just have a die or some sort of marker or something.
That is one thing Dominic Harvey does.
You put it beside you when you've made your land drop. And then, because this is a deck rife with opportunity to lose track of things because there's a million things going on. And you often have multiple land drops you could be making in turn for various reasons. So good, I think, for the players to try to alleviate that tracking burden and just use some sort of marker or something so you can keep track without having to memorize these minute and a half turns where playing one land was one thing among 17 game actions you took.
Well, it looks like we got a judge heading back this way, so we'll see if we can get a ruling here. And there is our head judge, Eric Lauer, the man in the red shirt. He'll let us know exactly what's going on here in just a moment, I believe. And if he doesn't, then we're going to try to sell you something at home. So you better hope Eric's ready to roll. Otherwise, you're going to get an ad read from Patrick. We know how those go.
And it looks like the judge is calling it.
Yep. And it looks like that's a 3rd game rule violation there for Sam Lawrence, unfortunately. So that's going to be a game loss for what it's worth. I'm not convinced he was going to win that game anyway.
It was looking bad.
So not the end of the world, but in tournament gameplay, it is important that you keep track of these things. And I think, and I hope, Sam does that moving forward. Either way, Zach Allen up a game here over Sam Lawrence. Esper Control up a game over Amulet Titan. And what was, I don't want to take anything away here from Zach Allen, a very well-played game by him.
Oh, I think that was very, very sharp. And my intuition was, all right, here's Hive Mind. Here's one of the live cards. Now it's time to fight your fight. But I think Allen quickly read the situation that it was actually safer for him to let the Hive Mind resolve because then the Logic Knot, which might have otherwise been dead, got to be cashed in profitably to fight over one of the Summoning Pack copies.
Sideboard time. We're going to start with Sam Lawrence, and he's got some relevant cards in the sideboard that we're going to take a look at here in 3 Path to Exile, 2 Negate, 2 Engineered Explosives, and some one-ofs, starting with Tireless Tracker and Reclamation Sage. You'll find another copy of Pact Negation, along with a Hornet Queen, a Chameleon Colossus, and an Obstinate Baloth to be searched for with Summoner's Pact, a Celestial Purge, and then a one-of Ghost Quarter.
I think this one is pretty straightforward that Lawrence needs more threat cards, as we saw. He just kind of ran out. I like the extra copy of Pact of Negation plus the 2 Negates to win fights over your game-winning cards. I definitely like Chameleon Colossus and Tireless Tracker here. I don't know if you want to go so deep as to play with Hornet Queen and Obstinate Baloth, but when we get to Alan's sideboard, there could be incentive for Lawrence to just play as many creatures as possible.
And we will go to Alan's sideboard right now because you're going to see 2 copies of Unmoored Ego that could certainly work themselves into the equation, along with 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Surgical Extractions, 2 Kalida's Trader of Get, 2 Celestial Purge, and 2 Collective Brutality, pardon me. A Supreme Verdict, a Dispel, and a Detention Sphere. I think there's plenty of cards for Zach Allen to take out and bring in.
Yeah, I mean, the Unmoored Ego is really the card here. You can name Primeval Titan with that and leave Lawrence with not a whole lot of ways to win the game and a lot of cards that aren't very effective absent Primeval Titan. Thoughtseize and even Surgical Extraction kind of fit into that sort of game plan. There are justifications for bringing in Detention Sphere and the Supreme Verdict, but I think Alan wants to be interacting with creatures as much as possible at instant speed because the sorceries are often, the Amulet Titan decks are often a one and done. They play Primeval Titan and you're dead that turn. Detention Sphere has utility against things like Amulet of Vigor, so maybe it's, and the other creatures that Lawrence is bringing in, so maybe worth bringing in. But I think there's a premium on Alan to interact with creatures at instant speed and cast discard spells as sorceries.
Well, those are the options there for both players. Game number 1 goes to Zach Allen. He is one step closer to putting Esper back onto the map. Shaheen Sarani, the Esper Professor, I hope that you are watching. Shaheen just ditched Esper for Izzet Phoenix like everybody else? What a traitor.
Not great.
I think Zach Allen might be the Esper Professor moving forward. We'll have to see. For now, though, we do want to talk about very quickly for the last time this weekend the War of the Spark pre-release that will be taking place April 27th and the 28th. You can register today. All you got to do is head over to go.starcitygames.com/pre-release. And if you do find one of those participating pre-releases, you'll get the coup de pas playmat that you do see here on your screen. It's an exclusive playmat available at participating stores, and again, you can find one that'll be participating in the War of the Spark pre-release with Star City Games. That's occurring on April 27th and the 28th at go.starcitygames.com/pre-release.
Absolutely brutal
Was
that Shaheen would put down Esper.
I can't believe it.
You know that Faithless Looting is card disadvantage? You know when you cast Faithless Looting, when you're done casting it, you have one less card in your hand than you did when you started? Mm-hmm. I can't believe Shaheen could countenance that.
He top 8 at a Grand Prix with it, too.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
It's really unbelievable. I don't like it any more than you like it.
Well,
and I'll tell you this right now, Shaheen, if you do this again, I'm going to have to let you go from the company because no one wants to read about him playing Faithless Looting.
Yeah, no one cares.
No.
Alan is one game win away from winning the whole thing with Esper Control.
That's right.
And has put on an absolute clinic against Izzet Phoenix.
He's played some good Magic. He really has. And, the build of his deck was not what I was expecting. I didn't know what to expect when I found out that, he was at the top of the standings after day 1. But he's obviously found a build that's worked for him. And unsurprisingly, someone that plays Magic at RIW in Michigan is doing well at a Magic tournament.
Yeah.
More news after WrestleMania, if we can find it. Esper Control. Some people, this is not Jeskai, right?
No. No, it's not. That's actually been a really surprising development in the format. Set aside Izzet Phoenix for a little while. Can't remember the time where Lightning Bolt had this little representation.
Pretty stinky.
It's not really great against Izzet Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really great against Stretch. Obviously, it's an extremely powerful Magic card in its own right, but not really that great against Amulet Titan.
It's not good against Dredge. It's fine against humans. I'm not going to act like it's bad.
No, it's very good. It's very good
against
humans.
But it's not Lightning Bolt like it was, 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, you got Death Shadow decks that don't even really play it anymore. And it's not very good against them either.
No.
So, the deck is still popular. And there's a bunch of other decks that are quite popular in Modern. I'm not even thinking of that Lightning Bolt's not particularly good against. So, it's funny, actually, you see a lot of copies of Lightning Axe.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty good card right now, I must admit. Well, these players are going to shuffle up here and get ready for another game, as Zach Allen is certainly zoned in right now. He is one game away from winning this thing. We got to watch his off-camera match last round, and after he won that one, like so many others this weekend, he took a big deep breath and a sigh of relief. As you can tell, he really wants to win this one, and I think he's played some really good Magic to do so.
And 18 rounds of Esper control, I mean, that is some real mental fatigue. There are no easy games. Everything goes on for a long time because you don't win short.
And you get no free wins, really, either. So he will scribe the top card to the bottom on this mulligan to 6, and we'll have an Amulet of Vigor here from Sam Lawrence to start things off. So Gemstone Mine down to 2 mining counters. Allen will play a Watery Grave tapped, and we'll see if Sam Lawrence has got anything to really cook with here as he'll play an Ancient Stirrings. Top 5 cards, a Coalition Relic of Souza, Teleria West Forest. Didn't get a great look at the last one, but it's going to the bottom anyway. It doesn't really matter. Teleria West, a great find here. One of the more powerful cards in Amulet Titan. Civic Growth Chamber will pick up the Gemstone Mine and, of course, will be untapped because of the Amulet. And Zach Allen's going to do what he did last game, which is just play some lands and be reactive as we head back over to Sam Lawrence, who picked up a copy of Hive Mind for the turn.
And even though Lawrence picks up some threats post-board, he is still much in the same spot, which is a finite number of ways to win the game and a finite number of ways to push those things through against counterspells and removal. But it's a major upgrade to where he was in the first game.
Sam will just play a Gemstone Mine and pass the turn back, so Zach says, I will sacrifice this fetch land and dig a land out of my deck and further along my mana, just like he did in, again, the last game. So Hallowed Fountain, the weapon of choice to go along with that Watery Grave. We'll head back over to Zach Allen for his third turn here in just a moment. We go back over to Sam Lawrence now after Allen plays another fetch land. Looks like a polluted Delta. It'll be a forest there for Sam. And simply passing the turn back. So, again, not a very explosive start here for Sam Lawrence. We've seen some very explosive starts from Amulet Titan in the past, but none so far in this match. Zach Allen, I believe, misses his 4th land drop. A very reactive hand, obviously.
Yeah, bit of a giveaway there that he didn't crack the polluted Delta. Doesn't want to thin a land out of his deck just yet.
This will be a Serum Visions with a green mana floating here for Sam Lawrence. He'll draw 1 and scry 2, secure a Tribe Scout and Serum Visions among the cards that Lawrence is looking at. We'll see how Lawrence wants to move forward. It looks like he does have a copy of Negate in hand. And a Zuza as well. And he's going to finish off the scry. Split the difference on that, one on top, one on the bottom. There's Teleria West that will enter the battlefield untapped because of the Amulet, and we're going to head back over to Zach Allen, it looks like. Sam Lawrence with a lot of cards in hand, demonstrating quite a bit of patience here. There's a Snapcaster Mage. That's on Zach Allen's end step, and now we'll head his way. Picked up a copy of Glacial Fortress, so that 4th land no longer a problem. Now this will provide a little bit of a clock over time as Lawrence will fall down to 18. Lawrence will draw a card. Didn't get a great look, but he's got a lot of cards in his hand, as we know. We'll see where he wants to start.
I mean, Tracker plus Negate backup. The question I have here is, can Lawrence win the game trying to fight these incremental battles over, try to get this 2-for-1, try to get a little bit of value? Or does he need to save all of his resources to go for one flurry kill? I don't have a great sense about whether or not it makes sense for Lawrence to try to pick a fight over Tireless Tracker. I mean, Allen, I think, you've been missing land drops, so your hand's chock full of action. You have an incentive to cast something if you can. I don't necessarily mind casting in something like Cryptic Command in this spot. What I'm interested about is, would Lawrence fight back?
There's a Vesuva. And it looks like there will be some triggers on the stack. Vesuva copying Simic Growth Chamber. There's an Amulet trigger on the stack, and of course the Bounce of Land trigger on the stack. And a Tireless Tracker make a Clue trigger on the stack, so long as Sam doesn't forget that one. Basic Swamp can be found by the Polluted Delta here for Zach Allen. We'll get our Max McVitie Clue token ready here in just a moment, folks. But Zach's got a response, understandably so. Looks like it might be a Fatal Push with Revolt, the fetch line providing the Revolt. And there it is. So now there's your Clue. There's your untapping of the Simic Growth Chamber. And I do believe that Sam Lawrence needs to return a land to his hand in this instance. I think he might just be deciding which one as he floats a little bit of mana from the Tolaria West, and now he's going to return the Tolaria West and I believe not transmute it, but play in Azusa. All right. So no mana floating now. An additional land there in Simic Growth Chamber. Untap, float a blue and a green, return a land. Let's do it again. Untap the Simic Growth Chamber, return Tolaria West, and transmute it. So, looks like no mana floating. Sequencing looks all good. Now the question is, what does Sam Lawrence want to find? As he's gotten his 2 additional land drops from Azusa out of the way now as well, and he'll go get a Pact Negation to defend himself once again, much like we saw in the first game.
And I don't mind Lawrence trying to power through in this spot because Allen's missing land drops, and he may not be able to win a fight over, multiple counter spells on the way back.
We'll go over to Zach Allen now. He'll draw a card. He'll get in here for 2. That's the easy part. A Snapcaster Mage is going to come on in. No blocks, unsurprisingly, there for Sam Lawrence. And Sam Lawrence wants to crack the Clue with the Vesuva Simic Growth Chamber, so he'll draw a new card. We'll head back over to the 18-year-old now. He will draw a card. Start things off with a Serum Vision. He'll draw Scry 2, green mana floating, of course, because he uses Simic Growth Chamber to play that sorcery. You see the hand, there's a Hive Mind in there, Pact Negation as well. He's going to split the difference on the Scry, like he has so many times thus far in this match. Botanical Sanctum will enter the battlefield tapped, and then untap, of course, because of the Amulet of Vigor. And it looks like Sam Lawrence is happy to pass the turn back and continue to set up more. Zach Allen with only 4 lands on the battlefield. Sam obviously has the mana advantage. But he had it last game too, and it didn't matter all that much.
Well, Lawrence is hitting a position here where he's going to be able to resolve a 6 with multiple counterspells back up. Allen needs to do something with his mana on the end step here. I'm not even that picky about what it is. But he's sitting here with a really reactive hand, and his mana is just going to get overwhelmed in one turn. So you got to start cashing in something at some point here.
Cryptic Command would like to bounce Azusa and draw a card.
Like I said, this is not the most explosive Cryptic Command here, but Allen has been burning off mana here for a bunch of turns in a row, and it's time to just do something.
Yep, I'm with you. So, Zach Allen will draw from the Cryptic and draw for the turn and get in some more damage here. Now, these 2 points don't seem like much, but they could add up over time. Could force Sam Lawrence's hand maybe sooner than expected, and a Creeping Tar Pit adds to that clock as well. We'll go back over to Sam. That'll be a Semi-Growth Chamber. It will untap because of the amulet. There will be a trigger. Got to bounce something. So Vesuva's going to get bounced. Vesuva tapped for mana as well. So Vesuva goes back. Or at least it would like to go back. Perhaps Zach Allen will have some sort of response here. Interesting. Surgical Extraction. Looks like that's targeting Teleria West. Let's get an idea of what Sam Lawrence is working with. Well, there you go. 2 copies of Hive Mind, a Primeval Titan, and a Azusa Lost But Seeking, a Summoner's Pact, a Pact Negation, and a Negate.
So getting to, I guess, 8 mana here is kind of the prize for Lawrence, as that allows him to try to Hive Mind with Negate plus Pact Negation back up, and you have the Summoner's Pact to do everything in 1 turn.
That's the thought process, yeah. And that would be 2, 4, 6, 7. It actually gives him access to 9 mana this turn.
Yep.
So it could be go time.
You know, it kind of feels like same spot as before. I don't know how much better it's going to get for Lawrence.
That feels correct to me, is that he's supposed to go for it this turn. Because like you, I'm just not sure how much better it gets. He's got all the tools that he could possibly want. The Hive Mind, the counter spells, and the Summoner's Pact that should provide the W, ideally. So Vesuva will be returned. There's a blue and green mana floating. But is Sam Lawrence willing to go for it now?
2 counter spells is...
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Ooh, I'm a little surprised might be going for prime time here instead.
So what makes me nervous about prime time here is that surgical from Allen wasn't about a whole lot happening immediately. I suspect that he has a Snapcaster to recur it or a second surgical or what have you. And that 5th mana maybe give him the window to go tag your Hive Mind with a discard spell and then surgical it, and then you're in a ton of trouble.
It's a negate on a negate. That's a Hive Mind. This song and dance again, huh? Summoner's Pact. Game over.
Right, as opposed to last game, Allen's Logic Knot would have been good there. Mm-hmm. There's no way for Lawrence to pay for it, so if he let it resolve, that means that there was nothing going on there, and Lawrence correctly identified the situation and went for the win.
And that is a win for Sam Lawrence. He wins game number 2 here over Zach Allen. Amulet Titan, Esper Control, getting ready for a 3rd and final one. As these players might be going back to the drawing board a little bit for the sideboard. So you mentioned Unmordigo.
Yes.
You want to name Primeval Titan or do you want to name Hive Mind?
Well, that depends how loaded you are with creature removal.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's one or the other. You try to narrow down what the game is about.
I'm weirdly thinking the game is much more about Hive Mind than Primeval Titan, even though Sam Lawrence's deck has about a bazillion ways to find Primeval Titan and not that many ways to find Hive Mind.
Well, some of it's gonna be context, right? Like when you have a negate in your hand, you don't necessarily care about Hive Mind, and you probably care about Primeval Titan a lot. So
sure.
The details matter. But yeah, I mean there's some hope here. I think the primary game plan is kind of how game 1 went, where Lawrence has a finite number of relevant cards. You make your land drops, you win all the fights over the relevant cards, and he's left with nothing to win the game with. Mm-hmm. I think there's sort of a backup plan here that can emerge post-board where your mixture of unmoored egos and surgical extractions, you can, some amount of the time, just like literally zero him out. Like leave him with nothing that can win the game. And to that end, Lawrence is boarding in just some random creatures to hopefully, first of all, a lot of them are kind of just good on their own right, and then to give him some hope in the game where he's tagged with the unmoored egos and surgical distractions.
Yeah, he can, of course, always move into Hornet Queen or Obstinate Baylock, getting some beatdowns, Million Colossus, what have you.
Yeah.
That's an option. Tireless Tracker could run away with the game in a weird way.
Yeah, I think of those creatures, I think Tracker's the best of the bunch, because if it resolves and then you play a land and it dies, you still got something to show for it. Chameleon, Colossus, Obstinate Beloth, and Hornet Queen kind of just die to stuff, and you don't have anything to show for it. But I think all of them are justifiable here if you're concerned about just enough ways to win the game.
Fair enough. Well, those are the options there for both players. They're going to get ready for a third and final one, and we are going to talk about Season 1 of the SCG Tour one final time here this weekend. We've been up and down and all around, everybody. Columbus was won by Ethan Gajewski and friends. That was our first team Modern Open that helped put them on the map. That, of course, being Gajewski, Feeney, and Abe Corrigan. There it is. SCG Worcester helped put Dominic Harvey's name on the map on our SCG Tour leaderboard. We went to Indy and watched Saltai mid-range win in the hands of Anthony DeVardi. Then we went to Baltimore where Ryan Overturf and his crew got the Team Constructed Open win. Dallas is where Mono Blue Aggro won in the hands of Robert Wagner. Then we went to the Cuse. Well, Rich Cali went to the Cuse and he won, that's for sure. Regional championships were won by many people, including Dylan Donegan. Philadelphia, we crowned some champions there in that Modern Open. That was a lot of fun. Then we did Cincy. We're here in Cleveland. One of these two players we're watching is going to win here between Zach Allen and Sam Lawrence. Then we're taking a little bit of a break. Breaks are good. A couple little three-week break for War of the Spark preview season and the pre-release. Of course, you can find a pre-release near you that's got that Coup de Paul playmat at go.starcitygames.com/pre-release. Then Patrick and I will be doing this Richmond Open for the War of the Spark release weekend. Syracuse, where, we won't be there.
I think Todd and Ryan on that one.
Yeah, I think Todd, Ryan, Matthias, Emma. They'll be hanging out at Possibilities. Not the Dinosaur Barbecue, unfortunately. And some other places that Adam Barnello, I'm sure, will recommend. Louisville, we'll be there. Excited for Louisville. I like Louisville a lot. A lot of good eats there and just a fun crowd. It will be a little hot, though.
It'll be warm.
Yeah.
I had one of my best friends. It's from there originally and moved back there, but unfortunately has left. So.
Oh, Ben left again?
Yeah, he's back in California.
That's too bad. Okay. And then we got, of course, our SCG Con Summer featuring the StarCityGames.com Invitational, June 7th through the 9th. Playmats aplenty, of course, for our last couple of dates here. We're going to have some new playmats for Season 2 we're unveiling pretty soon. But Botanical Growth by Victor Adame Minguez for our Standard Open and Challenge players. We've got Star Crowned Angel for our Modern players by Greg Staples. And, of course, the Lofstone Citadel by Adam Paquette for our Legacy Open and Classic players. These playmats are free and exclusive, just like they always have been here on the SCG Tour, with entry into any Open, Classic, Infinite Challenge, or Seal Spectacular package. Go.starcitygames.com/schedule. Find an event near you. Prepare to play some Magic, just like Zach Allen and Sam Lawrence are doing for the last time here this weekend in Cleveland. Game 3 underway. Zach Allen's going to start things off with an island. Sam Lawrence with the Tularia West. There'll be another island there for Zach, which is interesting, to say the least, because I'm not seeing any fetches or duels.
And no opt either.
Yes.
Very curious start here from Allen.
Though I honestly think maybe I've got a little bit of a read on the situation leading with these islands. I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of Black Source and Unmoored Ego, as there is a Ghost Quarter for Zach Allen. My read is wrong. He is passing the turn.
Yeah, it was the level 1 read of just he kept a hand with 2 islands and has not drawn a land.
No, he's not. This is the Serum Visions, and that will resolve. Sam will draw a card. Now he will scry 2. Pact Negation is 1. Selesnya Sanctuary is the other that he is deciding between now. Trying to figure out what he's going to do with the scry. Looks like they're both going to go on top. He'll pass the turn back with a negate at the ready. Zach Allen has done no cantripping. Missed the land drop last turn. And I've got a little bit of concern.
Well, he's going to be discarding a hand size here if he doesn't have anything to do.
And he will sacrifice a fetch. Okay, so he's got at least a little something to do.
But now he has to worry about negate on his Unmoored Ego, should that be the play.
And that was an attempt at the play. And the gate will be taking care of what I believe will be an unmoored ego as we're going to head back over to Sam Lawrence. And the ego has been countered. So back over to Sam now.
I mean, this is a clean shot at it. Shields are down. Now, I'm interested to know just how explosive is Lawrence's deck post-board, because he's brought in a bunch of counter spells. He's brought in a variety of creatures. You got to make room somewhere, and some of that space could be his ability to win as fast as possible.
Oh, there's an amulet. What can you do with that amulet? Going to start things off with a Boros Garrison? Maybe. No guarantee. All right, Boros Garrison. 2 triggers. So 1 from the amulet. 1 bounce and land. Going to bounce a Teleria West. Gemstone Mine going to go down to 1 counter. Going to search up a land or something similar here with the Teleria West. Goes by a couple of copies of Civic Growth Chamber. So he's not interested in that bounce land. Interested in Cavernous Souls instead to name Giant to resolve a Primeval Titan, most likely.
Although now the ball's in the other court now. Lawrence's shields are down. He can't even patch up negation back. So see if Alan maybe has his second sideboarded Unmoored Ego.
I believe that he does.
But, that leaves you in a position where you could easily die to Hive Mind the next turn, because it's not hard for Lawrence to have 6 mana on the following turn. But that, Teleria West for a Cavernous Souls is certainly a signal that Primeval Titan is coming.
Zach Allen's got a lot to think about here.
I mean, this is the whole tournament. If the play here is Unmoored Ego and you slip up and get killed by Hive Mind, that's just it. But you got to do something with your mana, and the Cavernous Souls is such a loud signal.
Well, here's Unmoored Ego. The name was Summoner's Pact. Does that surprise you?
You're sort of splitting the difference between fighting over Primeval Titan and fighting over Hive Mind.
Because now Hive Mind doesn't matter. It's not a game winner.
Right.
Okay. 1 blue black, choose a card name, search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library. For up to 4 cards with that name and exile them, that player shuffles their library, then draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. It looks like there was 1. So I believe Sam Lawrence should be drawing a card, and he is. That does split the difference pretty well. That's a good point.
Yeah. I had not considered that as part of, because just in my head, it's like, what are the cards that win the game? But Hive Mind's obviously, intimately connected with Summoner's Pact.
So now we play on. Another Pact Negation drawn. A lot of counterspell backup here for Sam. There's a forest past the turn back. We're going over to Zach Allen. This game's getting mighty interesting.
Allen really needs to make a land drop here, because he knows that he's going to be fighting against an uncounterable Primeval Titan here shortly. Although we could still be back in the spot where, can you just beat some paths? It's not clear to me.
Cavern Giant, got to lose a Gemstone Mine to do it, but it's going to resolve. So now Sam Lawrence is going to do some searching with the Prime Time. He's got an Amulet Vigor on the battlefield as well. So we'll see what lands he wants to get. But I suppose there's the ability to do a little bit of a Slayer Stronghold nonsense here.
Keep in mind also that the Pact Invocation requires double blue to pay. So right now, Lawrence down the Gemstone Mine has 0 blue sources of mana on the battlefield. So he has some incentive here, if he wants to unlock the Pact of Negations, to search for just 2 blue sources of mana. He may not even want to fight the fight over Primeval Titan if Alan has something like Path to Exile, but you at least want to you at least want to threaten the ability to do it, because Alan knows about the packs in your hand.
Teleria West, Simic Growth Chamber. Returning Cavernous Souls. That'll give you some blue mana now.
Yep. And you have the Teleria West available for future, bounce land shenanigans too. So Lawrence now can safely access his Path to Exiles. Or excuse me, Path to Negations.
Here's an opt. Top card becomes the bottom one there for Zach. Not happy with what he found. The mana issues are very real right now.
Yeah, I want to know what kind of, again, it's what hand did he keep here, because his opening was so soft of 2 basic islands with no opt. There had to be something really compelling to keep that hand.
This must be a main phase Collective Brutality.
Yeah.
So as a main phase opted, I believe a main phase Collective Brutality. Don't think he's going to like what he sees. Yeah, take a Pact Negation.
I mean, is he just dead?
It's not out of the question.
I mean, he's got, he's going to be able to play a Primeval Titan and get the Boros colorless land set up here if they're still in the deck. Find out in a minute, but I've seen Dilks win with less. I'll just say that.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. Celestial Sanctuary is going to enter the battlefield. It will untap from the Amulet. And now there will be some mana added. And you got to return a forest to hand. Another Primeval Titan. Trigger. Gonna go searching. Sunholm. Slayer Stronghold. There's Slayer Stronghold. There's Sunholm. These will be untapping here in just a moment. Thanks to the Amulet. Attack. There's going to be an attack here for 6, 12, 13, 14. Can he activate the Sunholm? If he can, the game is over. And I believe the answer should be yes.
It's 2 mana land and Gemstone Mine or Vesuva, whatever. Yeah.
Yep, Vesuva and the Simic Growth Chamber. And that is going to do it. Sam Lawrence is going to win this game and match over Zach Allen, 2 games to 1. Amulet Titan takes care